Okay, so we would like to welcome you today to Cyclotron's Microsoft Teams overview. And one of the things we want to do today is just sort of get you excited about why this has been such a game changer for not only for us as a firm, but as a consultant firm, and seeing a lot of our clients now implementing this tool and really taking to it has really sort of excited us. And it's been able to provide a lot of functionality for us as well. If you do have questions, feel free to use the chat window as well, or if you do want to take yourself off mute, you feel free to do that. I might table some things. We've got so much to cover today in this hour, and so I will be going pretty fast. And if you have any questions or information, please feel free to contact us as well, and we'll give you our contact information at the end today. All right, so I don't want to spend a lot of time in PowerPoint today, but I do want to level set. I do want to introduce sort of who we are. Are you the only one without audio? Joseph, can you guys hear me okay? It looks like somebody's having some audio trouble.
Yep, loud and clear. Masha, can you hear anything now?
She might be having one. Joseph, I'll let you kind of work with her on that. And if anybody else has any trouble, just put it in that chat window and let us know. So like I said, we don't want to spend too much time in the PowerPoint deck, but what I do want to do is sort of give you some introductions into who we are, and then also kind of level set with Teams and just talk about what that tool is and what the tool can do. So Cyclotron is a software integration company. We have been growing like wildfire. We've been really lucky, and I think it's because of our partnership with Microsoft, so it's not really luck. Our founder was an original member of some of the Microsoft team, and we have been able to grow utilizing some of that partnership and sort of being able to build offices across the West Coast. And we've got over 40 plus engineers in the California area alone. One of the things I want to talk to you about today are just some of the things that around Teams and some of the things that we do around Teams, obviously, but just to give you a sense of how you're going to evolve your own Teams implementation and maybe ways that we can sort of help you with that, guide you with that, and we hope today you come out of this with a real interest in sort of what the tool can do. One of the things that we have seen time and time again with Teams as well as with SharePoint is there's sort of this evolution of a Teams implementation, of a SharePoint implementation. And with that evolution, we kind of help you walk through that, right? So we'll help you sort of evaluate the tool, what you're doing today, kind of that evaluation, preparing, creating pilots and POCs, and then rolling out the tool, and then sort of taking it to the next level of bots and connectors and really integrating it with your environment and some of the things that you're doing, and then doing some training and adoption with that as well. So we have seen great success in sort of helping our customers do sort of this end-to-end Teams deployment and kind of going through there. And one of the things you're going to see today is that there's a lot to Teams, right? There's some basic fundamentals within the application itself, but then there's a lot to Teams to help it really be sort of this very powerful tool to help you do your day-to-day work. And what Cyclotron does is we really help kind of users go through that. And we've seen a lot of sort of guidance needed in some of these different areas, particularly around user adoption and training. A lot of people see the tool, and because it's easy to deploy, there's a lot of wait, are we doing it right? Are we doing this right? How should we govern this? What are some of the things on the back end that we can do as well? And so this kind of walks through some of those services and some of the things that we do. Taking it back a step, right, and saying, okay, hey, what is Teams? What is this tool that you guys are talking about? Why is everybody talking about this tool? And one of the reasons I like it, one of the reasons that we're seeing a lot of people excited about the tool is because it's one place. It's a hub. It's like this central location for all of that teamwork to take place. And we've seen a lot of our client base excited about that, but its ease of use is that other tool, right? So because it's easy to use, because clients can get into that without too much work, end users can get into it without too much work, it helps a lot. We go back to that hub concept, right? So you see a lot of the different facets here, and we're going to get into the demo right away here. I just want to, like I said, just levels out for a few more minutes here around what Teams can do. The other thing is growth, right? So Teams is a little over a year old now, and Microsoft has seen well over 200,000 organizations implementing Teams. We have seen such This reminds me of the early SharePoint days, right? We're seeing all of our clients ask, hey, what's Teams, what's Teams, what's Teams? We're seeing people who are coming off of Slack, and they're saying, hey, we're using Slack, but that's a whole different application. It's a whole different tool set. What about Teams? Because we're already paying for Office 365. How can we utilize that tool to really get us what we need? Because you have Office 365, because you have this ecosystem, you'll see a lot of different tools that are available to you, right? One of the things we get from our clients all the time is, great, Malcolm, there's all these tools, but what do I use when? How do I use, what tools do we pick? How do we integrate these with some tools we might already have that exist? And we help clients sort of walk through some of those things. Today, we're going to show you how Teams is going to help to be more of that chat-based workspace, how that's going to be sort of that primary communication tool when you're working on a project, a department, a process. And that's what we want to get you excited about today. I like this slide because it just has a lot of ideas on it, right? So there's a lot of ideas here on sort of how you can use Teams and how other people are using Teams. We use it as a big project management tool. So you'll see today that we've got our clients on here. We have our clients' projects on here. We're sharing that information. We're integrating tools like OneNote and Planner. So you'll see a lot of that work there too. I like the slide. The slide is kind of like makes me smile a little bit because you see sort of this youthful energy coming into the workplace now, where they're used to sharing. The Gen X's, the millennials, they're used to sharing stuff so readily. Where in the past, people who have been working in these systems for a while are used to using email and phone calls, and sort of what I say is siloing that information, right? So what we want to do is, instead of siloing that information, get that information out and share it, right? And that way other people, you can say, hey, person X, I'm looking for something, and then sudden person Y comes in and helps you, and you didn't even know that they could. And that sharing has really helped. And then sort of understanding where Teams falls into other tools like Yammer, for example, which are helping us present out to all companies and different groups as we're working through there. Skype for more of those direct one-on-one messages and conversations. OneDrive for business for sharing information. And if you get one thing out of today's presentation, if you get just one thing out of today's presentation, it's getting out of email. We're so driven to email. It's been our primary tool for communication for so long that thinking of another way to sort of communicate out it's a management thing. We've seen such great improvement in our communication with our clients, within our dev teams, within our management team, because there's that visibility into sort of the conversations that we're having with people. This slide just sort of shows kind of how ideas can journey through the different tools, how the ideation process can journey through the different tools through here. A question we get asked often is, how secure is Teams? How secure is that content that we have within Teams? We really use, because Microsoft has to be so HIPAA compliant and deal with other compliance agencies, there's a lot of that built in. So there's a lot of that compliance tools that are built into the process. Last slide, and then we'll get right into it here. When you create an Office 365 team, you create a group, right? And there's so many other tools within that ecosystem that are backing you up, right? And so when you create a new team, you can have a planner dealing with tasks all associated with it. You can have email, a team email group, Power BI, Yammer, and a SharePoint team site is always on the back end of those team sites. Actually, I lied to you. One more slide. This is a new slide because what we're seeing is a lot of our clients are coming from Slack. A lot of people who are saying, hey, we're using O365. We've got an E1. We've got an E3 license. We've got a pocket of people who are loving Slack and that tool. And what you're going to see today is that Microsoft is sort of taking a lot of those great concepts from Slack, and we're going to use the term leverage them into the new Teams environment. It's really sort of taken Slack and then just really brought that whole Microsoft drive to it to be able to really add a lot of information to it. We actually plan on doing a sort of demo around Teams, around Teams and Slack. We're seeing huge requests around, hey, how do we move from Slack to Teams? And so one of our next sessions will be around, hey, how to make that move from Slack to Teams in using these two different tools together. All right, enough PowerPoint. Let's get into the tool. Let's get into what the tool looks like. What you're going to see is that there are 3 different sort of platforms in which Teams can exist. And one of the things that I really like about the way Teams is built is that it's the look and feel is consistent, right? So right now what you're doing is you're looking at my desktop environment for my team site, right? So this is my desktop environment. And then there's going to be a web environment, right? So I'm in Chrome right now, so it's all going to be really browser compatible with all modern browsers. And then you're going to see here my team site for Chrome, right? And then what you'll see on the left-hand side are my different teams that I'm working with. Each of the different teams will have channels that are associated with them here. And then each of the different channels will have tabs that are associated with them as well. And so that's how we organize that content. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk you through that organization today. We're going to walk you through how to add and remove members and channels, and really getting into the heart of it when we talk about the conversations as well. All right, so let's take a look here at the tool, and let's take a look at the organization. And so we're going to use the web tool here to really show off sort of the structure, because that way I can zoom in and make sure that the visibility is good. All right, so what you see here are my personal teams, right? So these are the teams that I am working with today, right? And these are my favorites, right? So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to keep at the forefront the things to me that I'm working on a lot, that I'm spending a lot of time on, right? Now the teams that I'm not spending as much time on, I drop in here into my other non-favorites, right? And Microsoft has made this pretty easy to be able to organize some of that content, right? So if I want to remove a favorite here, I can just unstar it and it disappears. If I want to bring that favorite back, I can come in through here and I can go through there and I can star it and then it pops it to the top, right? Capabilities now are the ability to archive, teams. That's brand new, right? And so one of the things you're going to hear me talk a lot about today is that the presentation I'm giving you guys now is different than the presentation I did a month ago, which is different than the presentation I did 2 months before that, right? And for me, it keeps me busy, right? But on the flip side, it's a positive and it's a negative, right? Because Teams and Office 365 is growing and changing so quickly, right? And because it's doing that, new features are being added constantly. It's constantly improving. But as an administrator, as an owner, as a project lead, you want to make sure that you're keeping up with that. And you want to make sure that you're administering that and you're governing those processes as well, because all of that will be important in how you work with it. Let's take a look at the organization. So here are my team sites, right? And within my team site, I have channels, right? And so today we're doing the Teams presentation. And so because I've done this a couple times, I have a Teams overview channel, right? So I have a channel listing out all of my Teams information, my conversations, the presentation I'm giving you today, a link to the video of the presentation I did earlier in previous times. Within each team, I can click on these 3 little ellipses, same as SharePoint, same as a lot of the other O365 tools. That's going to show me my options, right? And so then within my options here, what I'm able to do is I am able to manage my team, right? So as I come in through here and I manage my team, you will see different members within my team here, right? There are 3 types of members that you can have on a team: an owner, a member, and a guest, right? Guests are going to be people external to your organization, right? And so we had a presentation earlier today with one of our clients, Forescout, and they have they're all guests within our organization, right, or within their team site. So I created them as guests within that account there. For us, this serves as an excellent way for us to communicate with our clients, because we can add guests, because we can manage those guests. We can then, instead of emailing them back and forth, we can have our conversations within the conversations tab to really work with them. Now, as I come in through here and I manage my teams, one of the things you'll see here are pending requests. And so if people wanted to request to become a member of that team, this is a private channel. And so channel people have to request to become a member. Public, they can automatically join into. I will then be able to see my different channels here. One of the other new features that came about not too long ago is I can auto favorite it. We have a client right now who has close to 150 different channels within a team site. As they're managing different inventory that they're working with, they have a channel for each piece of inventory, right? When something is high priority, they auto favorite it for everybody, and it pops to the top as they're working with them with that channel. Within each of the different teams, the team owner can go in and set some of those permissions, right? So for members, I have the ability to be able to go in and customize some of the permissions that I want them to have. We've done some trainings for other people where we say, hey, we want you to participate in the conversations, but we don't want you messing with the files. We don't want you to be adding or removing things. We don't want you to be deleting things. Do that here. Within the guest permissions here, it's going to be a little bit more limited, right? So do I want to allow them to create channels? Do I want them to delete channels? One thing you're going to see here is app mentions. I really, really, really recommend that you keep the app mentions piece on and the group on. You're automatically creating this distribution list within your team to be able to communicate easily, not only by name, but also by group. And we'll show you that in a little bit as well. Apps play a big part in the team's environment, right? Because what it does is it provides that central spot for us to go, but now I can integrate other line of business applications, and we'll show you that today as well. As we're integrating those applications, you're going to see some default apps that Microsoft has coming out of the box, right? And then you're going to see a slew of third-party apps that you'll be able to work with. Well over 180, almost 200 different apps now, and there's new ones being built every single day as you work with them. Okay, so that's how I manage my team. And now, once I've got my team, I've got my different channels, right? So within each of my channels, I can separate those by topic, by process, department. But the one thing I want you to understand is that today is no concept such as private channels, but the #1 requested thing from Microsoft is support for private channels within Teams. And that link that I just clicked on is the user voice for Teams, right? So one of the things that I have to be always on top of is, hey, what are the new features that are being requested? What are the new features in development? Between the Teams user voice channel and their blog, which I'll show you in a little bit too, you'll be able to see some of those new features coming down the pipe. All right, heading back over to my Teams workspace. So I've got my channels, right? And then I've got my tabs within here as well, right? So here's my tabs. If I want to create a new channel, I come in through here and I create add channel, right? And then as I add a channel within here, we're going to call this my channel. I can automatically favorite if I want to. We're not going to do that because it's simply a test channel. I'll go through here and add the channel. And one of the things that you're going to see is that 3 tabs that are default that come right out of the box: conversations, files, and wikis, right? Files is going to be, as its name states, is where all my files go. This is an easy way for people to upload and add files to a channel and a conversation. What's very important about this, and I'll copy this in here, so I'll copy the Slack data sheet, I drag and drop just like I do in SharePoint, and I can put it right into my channel. What's really important about this is that SharePoint is storing that file on the back end. So in that slide that we showed you when we were level setting, we know we create an Office 365 group. We know as we create part of that group, SharePoint is going to exist. Teams sits on top of SharePoint. The files that we're depositing inside of there go right into my SharePoint site, and they're visible through this Files tab. In each of my tabs, the wiki is going to be just that, right? It's going to be a wiki. My personal preference is I'm a huge OneNote person, right? So instead of using wikis, I use OneNote to track all of my notes, to keep track of all sort of my information that I want to share with the client, share with my team members as I'm working with them. Wiki I use for more static type information, right? Maybe some references that I want to be front and center, maybe some other things, but I'm always kind of using OneNote as my primary tool for sharing notes with team members. Now, as I add a tab here, one of the things that you'll see is that all of the tabs that you see here, not the Jira one actually, but all the tabs that you see here are going to be Microsoft ones that are available out of the box. Now, I installed the Jira Cloud tab here for another demo, so it became available for my team. I didn't catch that last time. So it becomes available for my team. The recording that I'm doing today, right? The presentation I'm doing today, we're going to save it, and I'm going to put it up in Stream, and then I'm going to be able to create a Stream tab. And so for people who maybe came in halfway, I know that my boss wants to see sort of how this went, and so I'll create that video. I'll put it up there for him as we walk through there too. What you see underneath here are other integrations that are third-party integrations that you can work with, that you can make available for your team. And these are just the ones that are available to us. If I needed more, I would go to the store here, right? And within the store, I can go in and I can find other third-party integrations that are being built and then install them and have them work within my environment. For any of the administrators who are on the phone today or who are on the call today, this is configurable. If I don't want anybody to put anything on there that we have not approved yet, I can shut the store down. I can shut the integrations down. What's interesting about that from a user adoption standpoint is that we've seen a lot of champions get shut down by some of the IT admins, and it loses a little steam, right? So it's a give and take between, you don't want to give people too much, but at the same time, you don't want to take away the things that really might excite them about sort of working with the tool. So there's a lot of different integrations. There's a lot of different ways that you can sort of work with your team, your tabs, and your channels. All right, let's go back to the channel here, right? So we have a Teams overview training channel that we're working with, right? And so as I'm coming in through here, the most powerful feature about Teams, the reason why people are making that leap to Teams, and this is sort of where Slack did really well early on, is this concept of conversations, right? So I can come in here now and I can have conversations with our team, and I can say, okay, hey, I see that Joseph is on, right? And I can see that Kevin's online right now, and I can say, thanks for participating in the training with me today, right? And just send them a quick shout out. Now, if you notice, the first thing I did is I hit that little asterisk. Most important thing you can do, because that's how I get alerted, right? And so when I get a ping on my phone, when I get a little alert coming up on my desktop telling me that, hey, somebody just pinged me to have a conversation, right? And so as I do that, the team members I see will come up. They're getting messages on their end today, and then they can come in to the Teams overview channel within the Cyclotron PMO team and respond to me, right? So any of our team who's already a part of this can come in here and participate in that conversation. These are persistent chats, and so what that means is you'll be able to see all of the conversations that we have had as we have dealt with the trainings and as we have kind of worked through this before, right? If there's a chat that's really important to me, one of the things that I can do here is I can save that chat, right? So I can come in through here and I can save a message where I have chatted before, and it'll go up into my saved messages over here, right? As I am sending out messages, I can also have a little bit of fun with it too, right? One little trick that a lot of people don't know when they start Teams is this little simple collapse compose box. I want to send out just a little bit longer of a message. One of the things that we've been doing is sending out periodic status updates, right? So if I wanted to send out a longer message here, I can do that here, and I can say, okay, maybe I need more information, right? I want to bold it, or I want to italicize it, italics or underline. Right? I'm going to get a few more formatting features here. And I can't spell today, italics. And it's checking my spelling for me as we go through. That's a Chrome thing, but there is my bold, there is my italics, and there is my underline, right? Another feature within my messaging is we can have some fun, right? So as fun with it, what we can do is add these or GIFs. And I know that these might seem a little silly at first, but what is really interesting about this is it gets people on board. You know, if I can have a little bit of fun during my workday, if I can send out a thank you in a little bit different way just to make somebody smile, be amazed at how this has helped from a user adoption standpoint to get people sort of saying, hey, I'm not going to use, I don't need to use email for all of these, right? So I can come in through here and I can send out a message here as we go through there, right? And then I can come in through here, and if I need to edit my message, I can come in through here and edit it as well, right? So let's say I wanted to edit my message, and I wanted to just alert some other people. Let me see, and make sure she got the message as well. Because I compose my message, I can delete my own message. Owners are the only people who can delete other people's messages. You can create a setting where people can delete their own messages as well, but only owners can delete other people's messages. I know that's important because you want to say, hey, I want to track history. I don't want somebody to say, hey, I did send this or I didn't send this. So there's ways to kind of add some of that tracking and add some of that governance within the process as well. This is a change in how people work, right? Even us at Cyclotron, I'm trying to get our team to use this a lot more than emailing those attachments back and forth and sending me an email about, hey, how's the Teams demo going? What do we need to do for the Teams demo? Really sort of communicating within here to do that. Is it easy? No, right? It's one of those things that it takes a lot of sort of back and forth. It takes a lot of just sort of the team owners, the top-down approach where you're saying, hey, this is how we're going to do our communication. And once people start to gravitate towards it, it helps. There's a couple of things that I use to help make that transition a little smoother, right? One of the things we can do is we can get an email address. And so if you still have to use email, you can email this topic or this conversation, and you can use the email address to copy your conversations within your channel. Right, so that's one way that you can sort of get in there and do some of that. Getting a link to the channel and just saying, hey, all the information you're looking for is within that channel. Here's a link to that channel, right? I am the biggest proponent of just keep sending links to people, and sooner or later, they stop asking me for it and they just go right to the team site, right? So it's lead that horse to water as you're working through that. And that's been a real effective sort of process to get people to start to adopt Teams, to start to adopt using conversations, to start to adopt the way to do document management as well. One of the things that I'm not going to have time to get into in depth today is some of the document collaboration features. One of the things that you can do within any of these documents here is we can work on the same document at the same time. So we can have multiple people working within the document at the same time as they're going through it. We can have conversations about the document, right? And so as we're going through here, you know that within Word, you can have sort of these comments and revisions going back and forth. But what's nice about Teams is that we can have those conversations right here, right? And so one of the things I can do is I can say, hey, presentation was updated, include Slack slide. Slack the team slide, right? And then what I'm going to do is I can notify everybody who's part of that channel like that. And Sam is one of helping me put together the slide deck, right? So I'm going to notify Sam and let him know that the slide deck was updated, right? So now we're having a conversation about this exact presentation. So when Sam gives the presentation, he knows that those new slides are within there. If you're making a transition, or if you're using Box or other tools, you can add cloud storage here. Microsoft has done a lot to say, hey, you know what? We're not going to just play in our own little sandbox. We're going to let other applications and other integrations work. We have clients who are using a lot of different tools, Zoom or Cisco or other tools, and we're saying, hey, you don't have to pick just one. We can show you how these tools integrate, complement, and work with each other. Some of the most powerful features here are within some of the document collaborations, are within sort of how these tools integrate together. Another one that I like a lot is sort of the notebook concept, right? So all of my OneNote notes are stored here. So as we do these Teams presentations and as we're taking notes, as we're getting better within here, I've got a OneNote notebook dedicated strictly to our PMO site and the things we're doing around Teams and sort of how we're working with inside of there. All right. You'll see that there's a bunch of different tabs here as I'm linking to it, and you'll see there's the Teams training that we're looking at as well. So this notebook is both available in the web version as we're looking at it, but it's also available on my desktop, right? So my one recommendation around using OneNote is get out of the web app as soon as you can and open it in the desktop app, right? And so tools for me that really complement Teams so well that whenever we create a new team, these are the first two integrations I add. We add the OneNote integration right away, so I can sort of see some of that training and the Teams notebook. So the same tabs that you were seeing before in my desktop are on my notebook here. I like OneNote because I can sync with it offline. So if I go on a plane, if I go maybe somewhere where I might not have strong internet access, I can take all my notes and all my information here. And as soon as I work with it, it'll sync back to my Teams environment over here as well. One of the things that you're seeing here is that I'm starting to get notified now as people are responding to my communication inside of here. And Sam's not even on the call, and he's like, hey, thanks, I'll check it out, because Sam's constantly on Teams. Sam and I are the biggest proponents out here of Teams within Cyclotron as we're getting our company, and we're practicing what we preach. And you'll see that within a lot of the different tools that we're using within inside of Teams too. Okay, so we've hit the conversations. We've hit the files tab a little bit. We've hit OneNote at a very high level. Planner is another tool that we use a lot. Planner is one of those integrations that allows us to track our tasks around a project. It's a very sort of high level tool around task management. It's good for sort of agile based projects. It's not going to be as deep as a tool such as Microsoft Project or Project Online, but we like it, right? We like it because it integrates here with my Teams environment, and so you can see here as we're working with, wrong tab. As we're working with one of our clients here, we're managing a lot of our tasks right within inside of Planner. This syncs with my application on my phone. This syncs with my desktop planner, and so all of my plans across all of my projects, across all of my teams will sync here as well. So those are some of the big integrations that I like to use as we're kind of working with it. One of the things that you'll see here is that Teams has chat capabilities. This gets a little bit confusing sometimes for end users, right? Because I can chat via Teams, I can chat via Skype. If you've got specific chat clients that you're working with, you can chat with them there as well. Within your chat, you have bots that you can use. So I can say, who is Steve? And it will look through and it will use AI to kind of go through my list and say, okay, hey, is Steve one of the senior account execs that I work with? Yep, that's the guy I work with, right? And so I can say, oh, who's his manager as we're working with as well. So there's a lot of sort of integrations around chatting and bots, and we'll talk about a little bit more about bots as well in a minute. You now can host meetings inside of Teams as the Skype functionality is slowly migrating out from Skype into Teams. There's sort of this full-fledged capabilities of Teams to have meetings. Of even 2 weeks ago, I have started moving all of my meetings out of Skype into Teams, right? So we're having full-fledged video meetings. I'm able to share my notes. I'm able to have a meeting right inside of my channel as I go through here. And we're also working with clients to help them not only integrate Teams and meetings, but dialing. So you have PSTN dialing as well being integrated inside of that entire process. Files is going to be my OneDrive, and so as I come in through here, it's going to store both my personal and my work. When I say personal, my Cyclotron personal files that I might be working on by myself, and then all my shared files as well here. So you're going to see my Teams files and my OneDrive files appear here. And then any other applications that I'm working with will appear here as well. So here's all my applications that I've installed or integrated with that I might want to work with. So I can see using those ellipses there, the different applications that I'm working with. Inside of Teams, you're going to see a very robust search engine, right? And so not only is this little search command bar, which is fairly new, this is about a couple months old, I can use it in a few different ways, right? So one way I can use it is by clicking the little slash icon, and it tells me some little shortcuts, right? So I can say, hey, slash, show me everywhere where I'm mentioned an at mention. So everywhere where somebody did that little at symbol and they said, hey, they mentioned my name, boom, this is where it comes up. I like this because it shows me things I forgot I could even do, right? So I can see, hey, what's new in Teams? I can come down here and I can just see what's new in Teams. So it's a quick little shortcut to be able to see sort of how you're working with it. By the way, this what's new links to the blog. So I love going through here and being able to see sort of what's new. Teams Free was just announced. So if you have users who are not, if you have guests or other vendors or clients who might not be on Teams, but you want them to use it, they can now use the Teams Free client. We're seeing more integrations now with Jira and Confluence and some of those tools as well. So those are some of the new things that have popped up. Also within this search, let's say I want to chat with somebody right away. So if I wanted to chat with Kevin right away, I would just type at Kevin and I could immediately start a chat with him. Once again, that at symbol being that little powerful tool that helps us to be able to kind of get information that we need. And last but not least, it's just straight up search, right? I want to search for a document that had something to do with SharePoint or a message that I might have sent out. You'll see I have filters on the left-hand side here where I can filter by messages or people or files. And so it's searching inside of files just like SharePoint search did. There's some governance things that we've done with our clients to help them make sure that their searching is intuitive, to make sure that people are seeing the information that they want. And there's still SharePoint in the back end that we're using to tweak search as well as a tool set. So we've covered the big three up top there. Oh, let's cover the settings over here. So one of the things that you'll see over here is with my face over there, it says, hey, don't bother Malcolm. He's in presentation mode right now. I can check and see all of the saved messages that I have so far that I've been working with, right? So anything that I said is super important is over here in my saved messages. Within my settings, one of the questions that I was asked in one of the last presentations was, hey, how do I control my alerts? How do I control the alerts that I see or don't see? And that's going to be this notifications tab here. So you'll see the same notifications tab on the desktop version, on the web version, on the mobile version, right? So if I get alerts on my phone now, I get alerts on my desktop, I get alerts in my web version. I also, if I don't see, because we have multiple clients and we have multiple Teams environments, I might not see all of them, I might not be logged into all of them. I am able to get an email if I don't respond within a day. So if within a day I haven't been on the team site or I haven't responded to things, I'm asking it to send me an email too. So there's a lot of different ways as you make that transition from having all your conversations in email and pulling them out of email and getting them into starting to use Teams as that conduit to have those conversations. We saw some of those keyboard shortcuts. We saw some, there's a desktop app and the mobile app as we go through there as well, and we saw the saved. Go in and control your settings. You can do that from that area there. And I think that covers all of the big things within the environment. Let me do this. I'm going to go back to my deck real quick just to see what I might have missed as we go through here. Checking time real quick. We have got 10:40. All right, so we're doing well. So as we talked about a team, we talked about working with a team. We talked about how we manage those users, channels, conversations as well. Really try to work with the conversations. Conversations sometimes, even within Cyclotron, I've had to say, okay, hey, I appreciate this email, but I'm answering you in Teams, right? And so that's some of the thing I do to get people to keep those conversations in the Teams channel, in the Teams environment. We talked about the different types of teams, right? So you can have a private team or a public team within your environment. I can say, do I want external users, guests, to be able to access either one of those teams to do that? And I can also control that from the admin level as well. We talked a little about managing users. How do I add, remove users? The different types of users. We talked about our owners, guests, and members. You can see the different settings here, right? So the different security settings that you have within the different owners, teams, and guests as well. We talked about the settings and permissions within the application, how we can change those different settings. Really using channels for different topics, for different departments, for different processes within a team. Like I said, we have a group that's managing different software applications, different inventory that they're working with. We've seen it used a lot of different ways. The @ symbol, the @ symbol, the @ symbol, use that. Make sure you're alerting the people as they're doing messages. You want them to be alerted. You can also follow a channel, which I didn't show you. By following a channel, you're going to get alerted every time there's a new message. And that's not always helpful, right? At first, maybe if there's something urgent you're working on, you can follow it and get alerts every single time. Here you see the mobile version. Over here, it's going to be the same sort of look and feel as you have for the desktop version. Chat, as you decide what your primary chat tool is, Teams can work like that. The one thing I do like about chat is that I might be working with a client who's not on Skype, and we're starting to use chat within Teams to have immediate conversations for the things we need to kind of go back and forth on. We talked about the default tabs, being able to add external cloud storage if you haven't made that move to OneDrive yet. We talked about adding the different types of tabs, right? So the different types of tabs you can see coming out of the box, the ones you can get from the store. This slide is already out of date. There's 180, at least as of July, and I'm guessing we're up at the 200 mark by now. Document collaboration with versioning, with check-in, check-out, you have the ability to really do really strong document collaboration. I think that's the primary, besides conversations, that's the secondary way we're seeing a lot of people really get the most out of Teams in their initial launch, right, as they're sort of working with it. We talked about the different ways to search and get the shortcuts and being able to filter the search that you're working with. We saw the desktop application, we saw the web application, and my screen sharing for my mobile is not working, and so we're not going to get to see the mobile today. But there it is. There's the mobile platform right there. So you see the iPhone and the tablet, Android. So it's not just iOS, it's also Android applications. We talked a little bit about guest user access. Just recently, it was announced that Microsoft is allowing Gmail accounts to be able to access guest users, and so you no longer need an Azure Active Directory AD account. So this slide's out of date. And that's how fast it changes, right? So I smile every time, like, whoop, that one's already out of date as we're working with it. But we can work with you guys to enable guest user access within these teams and how you're working with it. We've already had some great use cases and experiences with clients. In working with Flex, we have helped them to roll out Teams to over 75,000 users. One of the big challenges they had is really user adoption, and they're still working through it. We're still helping them with training and sort of incentives and methods and just sort of different ways to get people to start to utilize it. But also they have a strong IT presence, which is saying, how do we govern it? How do we kind of lay that out? How do we dictate what to use when? And so that's been a really good project that we've been working on for almost a year now. Aviation Capital Group is another good example. They're a client who we're helping kind of manage their airplane inventory. They get airplanes that they sell, rent, lease, fix. Each channel now is an aircraft, right? And all the information related to that aircraft is a tab within that channel. It's a really creative way to sort of utilize Teams to do what they're trying to do. One of the interesting things is that one of our first big Teams projects was over a year ago when Teams was just rolling out, right? And one of the things we were doing is we were actually migrating client from Jive to SharePoint. And then we kept kind of going back and forth with Teams, and they said, you know what? We don't want SharePoint, we want Teams. And so they were one of our first clients to really make a huge push into Teams. With these guys, we were able to utilize early PowerShell scripting tools to create templates for them and really streamline that process of moving content out of Jive files and conversations and videos and blogs into Teams wikis and OneNote and videos and conversations. So one of the things we're really proud about is being able to, even early on, helping clients make that leap into Teams. Now there's more tools, more APIs, ways to get you from Jive, Slack, SharePoint into Teams today. As your Teams deployment evolves, start to customize it and build it and integrate with line of business systems using tools like PowerShell. There's a lot of PowerShell commandlets that help us to build out what we're doing. There's a huge developer platform that is already helping us to integrate line of business systems, create bots for clients to helping them with help support functionality, who is type functionality as well. You saw before when I pulled up that user voice site. I'm constantly on that thing because I need to know what's coming down the line, what's new, what are people sort of working on. User voice is a great way to see what other people really want coming down the line with teams coming down the road. What's the roadmap look like? You can see some of the things that they're working on today. But the team's blog is a great way to see what's been released. So if you're managing a team's environment or you're overseeing a team, you can say, hey, I really wish they had a full meeting and calling solution. Well, now they do. As of 8/24, they're saying, hey, we've got a full meeting and calling solution integrated inside of Teams. We have a client who we talked to earlier this morning who's a big Jira client, Bitbucket Jira. And so they just introduced bots, both of those. So I'm always on top of this. It's a great resource to be able to kind of get a sense for what is Microsoft's working on and how they're utilizing Teams as well. The one thing I want you to get out of this conversation, and the one thing I push so hard, is try to get out of email. Try to not silo your conversations. Try to sort of work in a different way. If you think about your emails that you send, to your other team members, to your other project members, is it really a private email, or are you asking help for something or support on something or a process? You'd be surprised at how many people will come in and say, oh, wait, I can help on that. And as we're coming through there, they'll come in and be able to help you with that as well. I go fairly fast. I talk fast, so I want to make sure that we've got some time for questions today. So with that, I'm going to open it up a little bit. I didn't see any questions come through the conversations at all. Feel free. Anybody got any questions for me today? Silence. We really typing something here. We really appreciate sort of the time you guys spending today, just kind of listening, hoping, going through this. If you have any questions for this, please reach out to us. I didn't even give you my contact information. My name is Malcolm at Cyclotron, Malcolm Eaton here at Cyclotron Group. So please reach out to us, let us know, and we can reach out to you as well. We've got your contact information. We'll send you a wrap up on the presentation today. We'll send you some links out for what teams can do. Thank you, Yusuf. That's very helpful, even though it's wrong. But we do appreciate the help today. Good. Last chance for questions before I turn off the recording. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Appreciate your time.